Hello there, and welcome to my workshop tour. We're between shows right now. We just finished up a whole series on the Japanese toolbox, and we're about to do our next episode, but I thought it'd be a real good idea to squeeze in a tour of my humble workshop for you. I think we all like to take tours of people's workshops, so this is mine. It started out in the basement of our home, and as I got more and more into woodworking, I decided to move it up here onto the first floor. This room is 12 feet by 14 feet. It's 9 feet tall. It's got windows here for good lighting. So it's just an ideal workshop for me, and I'm real happy to be here. This is my workbench, probably the best place of all to start. I made this myself. This was one I made at the very beginning of my woodworking career. And it was inspired by a guy named Bob Key. He wrote an article called The Good, Fast, and Cheap Bench, and it was all about making workbenches with basic, easy-to-find materials and making a good, solid workbench. This is made out of 2x4s that are laminated together, and I've used it ever since, and it was a great project. It's 5 feet by 22 inches, so it's not real big, but it's rock solid. And it's a real joy to work on it. I have a quick release vise here on the front. This is a Record 52.5 ED. Record is a company in Sheffield, England that made these for many years. And then they were bought out by a company called Irwin, and they shut down these Sheffield facilities and they stopped making these. Way to go, Irwin. But anyway, there are other companies that are now making vices very similar to this, so you can still get something pretty close to it. Over here is my end vise. I made the jaw for this. It's got a retractable dogs that go up and down. It's a fun project. And the dogs are in line with holes along my workbench here, bench top, so I can secure wood this way and for planing and so forth. But to be absolutely honest with you, I hardly ever use this vise. I use other methods of work holding that work better for me. So your mileage may vary, but that's that. Live and learn. Underneath, I've got hold fasts, hold downs. You've seen me use these all the time. They're really great, fun to use. And I've got just accessories here, my homemade dogs and so forth. So nice workbench to work on. Behind me are some of my tools. You can see I use the pegboard system. I have dreams of maybe using reclaimed lumber for this and having something a little more organic, but it works just fine for me. I can rearrange tools as my needs change, and it works out just fine. Some of these tools are not woodworking tools because I use these tools also for fixing things around the house. I've got my Chisel Collection down here. These are my first ones. They work perfectly well. And I just picked up these. These are the Lee Nielsen bench chisels. I really like these. They feel nice in the hand. And I like them. Ask me what I think about A2 steel in about a year's time. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but they're good and sharp. They seem to be. So that is that. Underneath, I've got some tote boxes. I made 6 of these. Good practice for making dovetails. So if you're thinking about getting into dovetails, pick a project that requires a lot of dovetails. And that's the best way to get practice. So these work really good for me. I've got handles on either end, so I can pull this out from either side if I need to, if it's under my workbench. So those are that. This is my first workbench, actually. Before I got into woodworking, my dad helped me with this. Thanks, Dad. This is a solid core door top. Plywood drawers, and 2x4 construction elsewhere. And these are my drawers. This is my stationery drawer. Keep all my paperwork and pens and tablets in here. This is my junk drawer. I think every workshop needs a junk drawer. This is mine. Throw your things in here that don't have a home. And over here is my marking and measuring drawer. This is real handy. I don't have a lot of room on my workbench. It gets cluttered up. So I pull this out, and here I can keep my more fragile, delicate measuring and marking tools, and lessen the chance of me sweeping them onto the floor off the top of my workbench. So measuring, marking, that works out really well. And what else? Let's see. I guess that's it. On either side, you'll see these cabinets, and let me show you this one here. I made these a couple of years ago. Maple, the raised panel done with a hand plane. Mortise and tenon construction, very, very simple and basic. I keep all kinds of things in here. Sharpening accessories, we'll get around to that. I've got a router plane here. Got a plow plane that I use. You've seen me use this. A couple of block planes. Check these out. It's a new acquisition here. This is a 3/16 side bead plane made by a guy named Caleb James. Really, really talented woodworker. Just a beautiful plane. And here is my first side bead plane. You recognize this, probably. I use this for making the backboards on my sawtill. So looking forward to putting this to use. And then up here, I have my Band-Aid collection. Those of you who are frequent visitors of my show know that having Band-Aids handy is a real good thing for me. So that's where they are. Up top here, I have a lot of plans drawn on drafting vellum. I learned how to use SketchUp, and I think that's a great program, but I really prefer to draw things out whenever I can, full scale, on drafting paper. So this is actually a drawing of the very cabinet I was just showing you. And when I was making it, I could hang this on the wall and measure directly off it because it was full scale. That's my style of working. For the more complicated projects, bigger projects, I use vellum like this and go full scale. If it's a smaller project, I might use a small piece of graph paper and make a scale drawing. I work that way, and if it's a real simple project, I'll just scribble it out on a piece of paper and don't really draft it at all. I use these a lot. These are composition books. I've got these all over the shop. I got a bunch of them. And I scribble in here, I draw my ideas, or I'll record a clamping setup. So I remember how I did something. I keep computer files as well, but it's nice just to be able to scribble down in a book as you work. I even take these on the road with me. So I thought I was the only one who did composition books, but check this out. This is a composition book that my grandfather kept. When he retired, he was an electrical engineer. When he retired, he got into astronomy and began making telescopes. And this book here is his chronicle of his making of the telescopes in his own handwriting. This book is as old as I am. Fascinating for me to read. And let me show you something here, if I can get to it. Here's a picture, photograph, of one of his telescopes with arrows and numbers all along it. For you astronomers, this is an Equatorial Mount, and that's a motor drive, so he could compensate for the rotation of the Earth as he viewed the planets and the stars. So really neat. Check this out. You have to come back in. here is a detailed drawing of the whole optical system here that he did by hand. Really neat. So I keep this in the shop. It's a fun way to remember my grandfather. So that's that. Let us see here. Let's look at the other cabinet. Woodworkers are tool users, and I think that inside every tool user is a tiny little tool collector screaming to come out. And this is where I keep mine. In here, I collect planes. You can see them there. These are Stanley Sweethearts, made during the golden age of Stanley planes in the first part of the 20th century. And I've got a 7, a 6, a 5, 2 4s, and a 3. And they're all razor sharp, and I've restored them all. I use them all the time. And I really like them. Just beautiful planes. If these planes could talk, this is a number 5 here. And I use these magnetic business cards to protect the blade and also to protect the surfaces that I set them down on. And you'll notice that every one of these planes has a decal on the handle. And Stanley only put decals on their handles for a few years in the late 1920s. So that's the collector in me. That's the collector. I just have a weakness for the decaled planes, so that's why they're all like that. But if you're thinking about getting a plane, I would suggest you get a 5 or a 4. That's kind of the middle of the road. They're probably the most versatile planes that that are in the bench collection, bench plane collection. Good way to get started. I also have here a Stanley 80 cabinet scraper, and this works just like a card scraper, but it's got handles on it. You'll see that the blade actually goes this way as you push it, as opposed to a plain blade which slices. And it's great for edge joining boards and glued edges and that sort of thing. So nice to have. And I also have some card scrapers in here that I use too. So that's that. More plans up top here. And over here I've got jigs, various jigs, sample joints, practice joints, just miscellaneous stuff. So I think I'm at the end of my mic line here. We're going to have to stop for a minute before I get over here. Okay? All right. We're good? Yeah. Okay. All right. This is my my first project that I did a videotape on. This is my tool chest here. I made this down at Roy Underhill's school down in North Carolina. And then I brought it up here and finished it up at home and did a series on the making of this tool chest. It's a little bit small for serious tool storage. A full-size tool chest would be twice as long, twice as wide, and twice as high, and that's 8 times the volume. But I do like to use the trays here. That's real handy. I load it up with tools and put them on my bench top as I'm working. And check this out. When I wasn't looking, my bit and braces, or my brace and bits, built a nest down in here. And that's where they live. So I do use it for some tool storage. Real handy. It's a little bit low here on the floor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a stand for it, about this high. And this will be sitting up here. And then the stand will have a few drawers in it for storage. So that's the plan. We'll get around to that one of these days. Okay. Now we're going to head on over to the next corner. This is my sawtill. What would I do without my sawtill? Well, let me show you what I did without my sawtill. I had this rack, which was right here. It's of my own design. You can see it's got a 1/2 inch slot and a 1/4 inch slot, and it has pegs here. And I put the saws in like this, and I thought that was a real good idea until I discovered that I was sawing up my rack. So this will be used elsewhere. I'm going to cut this off right here, and this piece here is going to be used over there, and then this piece here is going to go in here like this for storage. So everything gets used. Here are my saws. You can see I'm a big fan of the Veritas line of saws. I've got a few of those. I've got my coping and fret saws. There's a new concept up here. Stanley panel saws. These are the electro-hardened teeth. You can't sharpen these. And I have plans of one day restoring a distant or two and replacing these. This is another one. I bought two of these actually because I just happened to find this one. Stanley is now mostly making those saws with those real creepy molded plastic handles on them. I hate those things. So there's that. But my newest addition to my collection of back saws is this right here. This is a Bad Axe saw, Bad Axe Toolworks, 10-inch dovetail saw. So let's move over to better lighting and we'll check this out. A few years ago, a guy named Mark Harrell started a company called Bad Axe Toolworks. And this guy is bound and determined to make the very best back saws he possibly can. And boy, is this a nice one. It's made in the great tradition of back saws. It's got a folded steel back. It has hammer set teeth, hand filed. You can get them in a number of configurations. This handle is available in a number of different sizes. And you can see this fits my small hand perfectly. You get them in all different sizes. All different species of wood and also different finishes on the folded back here. Just beautiful, beautiful saws. They cut like a dream, and it's real nice to have one. Nothing to take away from the Veritas line of saws. I think they're an excellent value, but there are some manufacturing steps in making these saws and handwork and expertise that put these into a different category. So it's nice to have a choice. So that's that. This is probably a good time to mention that when I tell you that I really like a saw or a tool of any kind on my show, it's because I really believe in it and I think you'd be interested in it. Nobody gives me free stuff or money. There's no deal. I do it because I think it might be of interest to you. So that's that. Let's check this out. This is the last corner of the room, and this is the only piece of furniture that I didn't make in this room. It's an IKEA kind of thing. I keep all my my glues and adhesives and WD-40 and stuff like that up here. I'm a big fan of fishing lure boxes for storing all kinds of small stuff. I used to have those little cabinets with the drawers and so forth, but this I think is much easier to use. You can look down through the top and see everything at one time. They're inexpensive. You can rearrange the partitions any way you need to. They're highly portable. So I really like these a lot, and I've got them all over the place. Great tool storage. Smaller ones down here. My tool, or my clamp collection. Let's have a look at those. I made this with plenty of room, and then I quickly outgrew it. These are F-clamps. Use these a lot for all sorts of things. These are actually Harbor Freight clamps. I'm glad I bought a bunch of these because I don't think they sell them anymore. Anyway, use those. Spring clamps. You've seen me demonstrate this before. That's a really nice clamp to have. Got 4 of those. I use these parallel clamps down here. These are heavy and they're kind of expensive, but boy, sometimes they're just the clamp to have. I like these a lot. Good solid parallel clamps. But my favorite clamp of all is the humble hand screw. This is my favorite kind of clamp. The first time I saw one of these, I thought, what kind of clamp is that? It wags back and forth, and I don't know, it didn't appeal to me, but look how useful it is. Right here, you can use it for clamping things on edge. For example, if I was chopping a mortise here, this would transfer all of my blows to my worktop, my bench top, instead of in my vise if I was clamping it in my vise or something like that. That right there makes it incredibly useful. You can also clamp the clamp with all these flat surfaces. I can clamp this right to my bench like that, keep it from moving. It's also a portable vise. If I'm working outside of my shop, I can take one of these along and clamp it to any flat surface and create a vise for myself wherever it is that I'm working. It's made of wood, of course, so it's very gentle on things that you clamp. It's non-marring. And also being wood again, you can carve this or cut this or fashion this into some sort of customized purpose. I see a lot of people cut notches in the jaws like this. In that way they can clamp dowel rods or pipes or cylindrical objects. So very, very useful clamp. They come in all sizes, tiny little ones for model making and great big ones for other projects. I've got about 6 of these and I need about 6 more. So just fantastic clamps. Where am I going from here?
I don't know.
Oh, I know. We'll just keep right on rolling. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, no tour of a workshop is complete without looking at the sharpening setup. So let's have a look at that. And here we are. This is my sharpening system. A little controversial, I'll bet. Most people don't use this method. You may have heard of it. It's called the Scary Sharp system. I call it the Scary Heavy system because I'm using these granite surface plates. And I've glued on various grits of sandpaper on here. This is 800, 15, 2000, 2500, and 2 grits of lapping film for honing. And it works for me. Every system seems to work, whether you're using the motorized system or whatever. But the thing I like about this system is that my stones are always flat. I've got nice big sharpening surfaces. And I just very comfortable using this system. It's heavy, it's not portable, but I never have to really move them around. I don't use water or oil. I just use a vacuum cleaner and I use them dry. And it works for me. I use the Mk2 Sharpening Jig. Some people have a problem with skew. I don't. I've kind of got a knack for it and it works very well for me. I also hand sharpen. If it's a strange shaped blade or if I'm in a hurry, I might actually hand sharpen as well. But feel free to send me your opinions about what I'm doing here. You won't hurt my feelings. Well, you might, but I'll get over it. But anyway, that's the tour of my workshop. Thanks for stopping by. Before we go, one thing I want to mention. I said this was my first workbench. It really wasn't. The first workbench was our kitchen table at home. My parents encouraged us children to do our arts and crafts on the kitchen table, and they encouraged us to use our eyes and our hands to make things. So Jonine and I visited my parents just a couple days ago, and we sat at that very kitchen table, and I thought you'd like to have a look. So let's have a look.
I am rolling when you are.
Okay, I'm here with Mom and Dad, and we're here at our kitchen table. This is the family gathering spot for all of my lifetime. And not only was it our kitchen table, it was my first workbench. And you can tell that by looking at all these marks here.
Yep.
And Mom, you made a lot of dinners on this table. And when you weren't preparing food or serving food to the 6 kids, this was up for grabs as a work table or as a workbench.
That's true.
And,
that's right.
You can see all the cut marks here. Dad, what'd you pay for this thing back in 1958?
I paid $40 for the table, I think, and $20 for each bench.
So for 80 bucks, you got this solid maple table and matching benches to go with it. So I think that's pretty neat, and I think it's important that a family has a place where they can work and do crafts, arts and crafts, and make things. Now, Mom, you made a lot of clothing.
Yes, I did. A lot of, and slip covers and curtains. And here's some tracing wheel marks. You see them? That's from a tracing wheel that made dresses for your sisters. And I even made coats and slacks for you boys. Beachwear, anything we needed, I made on this table.
Working with her hands.
Yeah.
And even changed diapers on
Change diapers. Dad, did you have to mention that?
Kenny's diapers were terrible. We can cut that out.
Way to go, Mom.
I had to put my individual stamp on it. Yeah, everything with homework was done here.
Yeah.
Homework and artwork, anything you kids had to do was done on this table, and me and Dad.
I know you patched a lot of clothing. I know a lot of patches and knee patches.
In the 60s when that was fashionable, there were lots of patches on your knee. You know how the jeans like to have patches on them. I did a lot of work on this table.
Any last words, Pop, about this fabulous table?
No, not really. It'll go on. Nice knowing it's going to go on right after we're gone.
Yeah,
That's neat.
I know Kenny, he likes it like we like it.
Maybe someday there'll be some diapers changed.
Yes,
yes.
Enough with the diapers, you guys. Enough with the diapers.
Do you want to wrap it?
What do I want to wrap it up?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, thanks guys for allowing me to invade the kitchen here with our camera.
You're welcome,
And
honey.
thanks for the memories.
Oh,
too.
yeah. Thank you. You gave us a lot.
So that was our little visit up there. I want to thank my mom and dad for letting us take the camera up there and record our little visit. I also want to thank them for instilling in me an interest in working with my hands, and most of all for providing a home and a time and a place to do that. So thanks Mom and Dad, and thank you for stopping by, and see you next time.
Wasn't that great?